Downtown demonstrations now swell into the thousands. College campuses buzz, not with lectures but with synchronized chants. And in once quiet suburbs, political lawn signs now outnumber the mailboxes. A shift is underway, one that's not just political but deeply personal, cultural, and rapidly intensifying. One name continues to ignite this wave. Across state lines, a surge of resentment is brewing. Not from traditional opponents, but from areas that once remained silent. What was once disapproval has now evolved into outright defiance. While some celebrate, others are sounding the alarm. This backlash might not just shake up the next election. It could trigger something far greater. So, which 10 states harbor the most disdain for Donald Trump in 2025? Let's uncover the list. Number 10. Vermont. Quaint and idyllic with its maple groves, covered bridges, and serene towns, Vermont might look like a postcard from the past. But in 2025, that stillness has been replaced by the rising roar of political fury. Always a progressive-leaning state, Vermont's quiet lean has exploded into open rebellion. With over 70% of residents expressing disapproval of Donald Trump, the discontent is undeniable. Why the outrage? Because here, his policies cut straight to the bone. Family farms are buckling under the weight of punitive tariffs. Climate protections are being rolled back as flood threats worsen across the state. And when federal programs for healthcare and rural aid face cuts, it's Vermont's aging population and blue-collar communities who suffer first. Montpelier's State House has seen more public marches in the last 6 months than the past 6 years combined. This isn't just resistance, this is rejection. If Trump continues to push his agenda, Vermont may well lead the charge in a grassroots revolt. Could the calmest state in the country become the loudest voice of opposition? Don't look away. Number 9. Hawaii. Sunsets, surf, and endless aloha, until the topic turns political. What happens when paradise finds itself disillusioned by the president? Hawaii is not only geographically distant from the mainland, it's quickly becoming politically distant as well. Trump's approval rating here in 2025 ranks the lowest in the entire nation. The tourism-driven economy, Hawaii's lifeblood, suffered heavily under his administration. Mismanagement during the pandemic, climate indifference, and foreign policy tensions reduced flights, cut tourism revenue, and left hotels vacant. But the problems don't stop there. Native Hawaiians have long felt ignored, marginalized, and disrespected by federal policies, from land disputes to environmental neglect. Now, those frustrations are catching fire. Locals increasingly feel that federal leadership is detached, dismissive, and harmful. In Hawaii, this isn't about party lines. It's about survival on a chain of islands that feels politically abandoned. Before we dive into the next state, make sure to subscribe. It helps us keep bringing you stories the mainstream misses. And trust us, what's coming next might just surprise you. Number 8. Maryland. From the outside, Maryland sparkles. Sleek federal buildings, booming tech hubs, and elegant suburbs dominate the skyline. But beneath that gloss lies a growing storm. Maryland is no stranger to politics, it lives in the belly of the beast. With a high concentration of intelligence agencies, federal departments, and top-tier universities, this is a state that watches Washington with sharp eyes. In 2025, that watchfulness has morphed into fury. Donald Trump's resurgence on the national stage has struck a nerve here, not apathy, but white-hot anger. The polling tells the story. The majority of Maryland voters deeply disapprove of his policies and leadership. Regular protests erupt from Baltimore's streets to Bethesda's sidewalks. Why such intensity? Because science is sacred here. Climate change isn't a distant theory, it's already flooding Annapolis and threatening coastal communities along the Chesapeake Bay. Environmental rollbacks under Trump aren't seen as policy, they're viewed as sabotage. Healthcare cuts under his administration hit Maryland especially hard. With world-class hospitals and thriving biotech sectors, this state sees medical innovation and access as non-negotiable. And then there's the social fabric. Maryland prides itself on being inclusive. Trump's divisive rhetoric on immigration, race, and civil liberties reopened wounds that never fully healed. In Baltimore, a city already bearing the scars of systemic injustice, that rhetoric fueled a fresh wave of activism. Economically, Maryland relies heavily on the federal workforce. Trump-era dysfunction, hiring freezes, budget delays, political purges, left federal employees demoralized. Many describe a climate of dread and instability. So while Maryland may appear polished, don't be deceived. This is a state on edge. If Trump doubles down, Maryland won't be a passive observer. It'll be on the front lines of resistance. Number 7. Virginia. With tree-lined streets, surging tech innovation, and booming suburbs, Virginia presents the picture of American success. But beneath the surface, something powerful is boiling. How did a state known for its tradition and balance become one of Trump's fiercest critics in 2025? The reasons are complex and increasingly urgent. Start in Northern Virginia, home to tens of thousands of federal workers, contractors, and analysts. These professionals depend on consistency, respect for facts, and a functional government. Under Trump, many felt vilified. Whistleblowers were punished. Projects were politicized. Agencies were hollowed out. And in the eyes of Virginia's federal workforce, that wasn't leadership, it was sabotage. Further south, in Richmond, college students have taken to the streets. Voting rights, racial equity, climate justice, Gen Z is raising its voice like never before. In Norfolk and the coastal regions, the U.S. Navy battles a new enemy, rising seas. With one of the world's largest naval bases at risk, Trump's denial of climate threats feels not only irresponsible, it feels dangerous. Virginia's long and complicated history weighs heavily in this backlash. Civil War sites, civil rights legacies, and generations of struggle shape the identity of this state. When Trump trivializes history or weaponizes division, many Virginians take it personally. The political divide here has grown sharper. Suburbs that once tilted red, places like Loudoun, Fairfax, and Henrico, are now blue, bold, and vocal. Organized resistance, grassroots campaigns, and political realignment have transformed Virginia into a stronghold of dissent. The Old Dominion is changing, and Trump is losing his grip on it. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button, it's how we keep reporting stories others avoid. And trust me, the next state proves that even the smallest voices can make the biggest noise. Number 6. Rhode Island. Charming towns, ocean breezes, and thriving arts, at a glance, Rhode Island feels calm and collected. But beneath that serenity lies a political fire that's getting hotter by the day. As one of the most democratic-leaning states in the country, Rhode Island in 2025 is no longer simply opposed to Donald Trump, it's actively pushing back. And its message is fierce: enough is enough. The state's frustration starts with its values. Rhode Island boasts one of the highest percentages of college-educated voters. Attacks on education, misinformation campaigns, and anti-science rhetoric from Trump are seen here not as political games but direct insults. Healthcare is another sore spot. Rhode Island was an early adopter of Medicaid expansion and invested heavily in public health. When Trump tried to unravel those gains, it wasn't just policy, it was personal. In working-class cities like Pawtucket and Woonsocket, underfunded services became symbols of betrayal. There's more. Rhode Island's strong union culture and deeply rooted immigrant communities viewed Trump's anti-labor and anti-immigration messaging as hostile and threatening. Here, those stories aren't abstract, they're woven into families, neighborhoods, and history. Coastal erosion and climate risks only add to the pressure. Providence now floods more frequently than ever before. Environmental rollbacks from Washington don't feel distant, they feel like direct threats to Rhode Islanders' homes, businesses, and futures. And the response? Loud and relentless. The state's capital is now decorated with resistance murals. High schools and colleges have organized walkouts. Town halls overflow with impassioned voters. This is no longer quiet disagreement. It's determined defiance. Rhode Island may be small on the map, But when it comes to political backlash, its impact is seismic. The smallest state might just deliver one of the biggest warnings heading into 2025. Number 5. Connecticut. Affluent, elite, and polished, Connecticut boasts Ivy League prestige, luxury coastlines, and financial might. But beneath the gleaming surface, have you ever considered what tensions are stirring underneath? In 2025, this state isn't simply drifting away from Donald Trump, it's launching a full-scale pushback. And what makes this uprising so significant is who it's coming from. It's not just progressive students, it's professionals in Stamford, educators in New Haven, nurses in Bridgeport. Even moderate suburbanites who once remained quiet are now organizing protests, joining marches, and raising their voices. This isn't anecdotal, it's measurable and accelerating. Why such a shift? Let's start with the economic framework. Connecticut thrives on sectors like finance, healthcare, and education. Trump's erosion of regulatory institutions and dismissal of science-based governance left deep wounds. Educators are grappling with funding shortfalls. Hospitals flag uncertainty. And financial experts argue that Trump-era global unpredictability undermined confidence and disrupted business. Now, peel back the layer of wealth and you'll find another reality: rising inequality. While Fairfield County shines, cities like Hartford and Waterbury are still wrestling with poverty and disrepair. Many blame federal apathy for worsening the gap. So when Trump boasted about economic wins, Connecticut residents asked, wins for whom? Immigration is another raw nerve. The state is home to many mixed-status families. Trump's aggressive policies created an atmosphere of fear, triggering protests and fueling a broader conversation about what it means to belong in America. Environmentally, the story deepens. Coastal towns like New London are being battered by erosion and rising sea levels. Trump's rollback of environmental safeguards? Locally viewed as outright betrayal. Outwardly, the sailboats still glide and the campuses still gleam. But beneath all that, Connecticut is no longer quiet. The resistance here is sharp, strategic, and getting louder by the day. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe. It allows us to keep revealing what others ignore. And trust us, the next state will leave you stunned. Number 4. New Jersey. The skyline across the Hudson still sparkles. Trains run, boardwalks buzz, and life seems normal on the surface. But don't be fooled. The storm isn't coming to New Jersey, it's already arrived. In 2025, this state isn't slowly drifting from Trump, it's outright rejecting him. And that rejection goes far deeper than party lines. Ask yourself this: how did a state that helped fuel the American middle class become one of Trump's biggest critics? The answer lies in economic neglect, broken promises, and a deep craving for dignity. Cities like Newark, Paterson, and Camden have suffered decades of systemic underfunding. Trump pledged investment, revitalization, and infrastructure overhauls. But fast forward, and residents say little materialized. Projects were abandoned. Economic divides grew wider. And the working class? Left behind, again. Let's talk healthcare. New Jersey expanded Medicaid and invested heavily in public health systems. So when Trump's policies threatened to dismantle those efforts, the response was immediate and fierce. In immigrant-heavy cities like Jersey City and Elizabeth, people saw these policies as attacks on survival, not just politics. Then there's climate change. New Jersey's shoreline is eroding fast. Storms hit harder. Flood zones expand every year. Trump's rollback of environmental laws? It didn't just alarm residents, it scared them. But the emotional heartbeat of this state lies in its culture. New Jersey is scrappy, outspoken, and loyal. When Trump dismissed entire communities, undermined protesters, or ridiculed local concerns, the state didn't stay silent, it roared back. From teenagers to union leaders, from Bergen County to Atlantic City, the cry has been consistent. Not this time. Number 3. Georgia. The roar from college football stadiums still echoes across Saturdays. Atlanta's skyline keeps reaching higher. But don't let the growth fool you. Underneath the glitz, Georgia is a state split wide open. And in 2025, it's not just reacting to Donald Trump, it's confronting his legacy head-on. Georgia turned blue in 2020, a shock to many, but the writing had long been on the wall. Suburbs like Cobb, Gwinnett, and Henry County transformed demographically and politically. These communities are younger, more diverse, and increasingly dissatisfied with Trump's policies and tone. But the transformation doesn't end there. Georgia's economy has pivoted dramatically. With booming tech hubs and a thriving film industry, cities like Atlanta now rely on global ties, inclusivity, and policy stability. Trump's nationalist, inward-looking politics? Directly at odds with that vision. Add in the aftermath of the 2020 election, false claims, conspiracy theories, and threats aimed at local officials, and you'll find a population that's not just skeptical of Trump, but furious. Black voters, who hold immense electoral power in Georgia, felt particularly targeted by Trump's words and actions. Many viewed him not just as dishonest, but dangerous. Even in rural regions where support for Trump once ran deep, the sheen is fading. Farmers took the brunt of Trump's trade wars. Small towns kept waiting for promised growth that never came. Now, they're asking tougher questions. Where is the change we were promised? Georgia is no longer just a swing state. It's a seismic fault line in America's political landscape. And every aftershock makes it clearer. The divide here is personal, and the resistance is growing. Number 1. California. Move past the palm trees, tech campuses, and movie premieres. Behind California's glamorous curtain lies a more sobering truth. This giant is straining under the weight of its contradictions. In 2025, the Golden State may still lead in GDP, innovation, and influence, but look closer, and the fractures are spreading. Start with housing. In cities like LA, San Francisco, and San Diego, the cost of living is astronomical. Homeownership is out of reach. Rent eats up entire paychecks. California now accounts for nearly a third of the country's entire homeless population. That's not hyperbole, it's a humanitarian emergency. Now consider the mass departure. Over 800,000 residents have left the state in just a few years. Families seeking affordable homes. Businesses fleeing red tape and high taxes. Even tech companies, once the crown jewels of Silicon Valley, are moving headquarters elsewhere. If California's own innovators are leaving, what does that say about its future? Then there's the climate crisis. Wildfires have destroyed entire towns. Droughts have devastated farms in the Central Valley. PG&E, the state's largest utility, has faced lawsuits over deadly fires. And the power grid? Increasingly unreliable. Add rising crime, political gridlock, and the perception of a fraying social contract, and the picture becomes clear. California may still be thriving on the outside, but internally, the pressure is mounting. Trump's policies, from climate denial to immigration crackdowns, stood in direct opposition to California's values. That opposition has only hardened. And now, the disapproval is not just political, it's philosophical. How long can this superstate maintain its image of prosperity while so many cracks form beneath it?